Welcome to this practice, which is a combination of warm-up exercises that are going to really help work with loosening up and opening up through the hips, combined with a Kundalini Kriya, which is to keep emotional and mental balance. So this is hips and hormones all in one practice together, in a way that has adaptations that are suitable for pregnancy or pain or any other movement limitations, but also a really nice set to do when you haven't got any limitations but want to work on those, gently work on those areas within your body, within your mind. So just following and practicing in whatever way feels right for you, as we do throughout our practices together. Closing your eyes, allowing your breath to flow in and out through your nose, as it will throughout the practice. We're going to then introduce an adaptation to that breath, something called the golden thread, where we're going to breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the lips. And I'd like you to hold your lips as slightly parted as possible, the tiniest gap between your lips. Imagining that there's just a little rose petal that you're slightly keeping afloat or just fluttering as you're exhaling. And that's all that's there, in through the nose, out through those very gently parted lips. Allowing that exhale to become slower and slightly longer each time round. That tiny gap between the lips with the exhale, just small enough for a fine golden thread to pass out through your lips, in through your nose, out through those lips. Imagining that golden thread weaving its way through in any direction to any destination you want to get to. Following it, winding its way down streams, around trees, over hills, into cupboards, wherever it might be taking you. Any intention you might have where you'd like this practice to transport you to. Focusing on that intention, that destination, and imagining with the exhale through the very slightly parted lips, that golden thread finding its way to that place that you want to go to, binding itself on, and knowing you can follow that golden thread through this practice, and it can take you there. Just taking a few more cycles of that golden thread breath, allowing the exhale to become slower, deeper, finer, as fine as that tiny thread is passing out through your lips. And knowing this is a breath you could return to throughout the practice if you ever want to just take a break from a posture. You could return to in your own time at any point in time. A useful breath for carrying you through in any challenges you may face, to any destinations you want to reach. And when you finish the final cycle of that exhalation, breathing in deeply, maybe scrunching the shoulders up to your ears, and exhaling, dropping the shoulders down. I'm going to bring the palms of the hands together, rubbing them together, warming up the nerve endings, bringing the hands into the chest, thumbs pressing into the sternum, eyes closed, maybe tucking the chin into a light neck lock, so just elongating through the back of the spine, crown of the head parallel to the ceiling. And we're going to open with the Adi mantra, Om Namo Guru Dev Namo. I bow to the divine teacher within, followed by the Mangala Charan mantra, Ad Guru Namo, for protection. Joining in or breathing with the sound, however you'd like to open the practice. Inhaling deeply, exhaling completely, and inhaling to begin. Om Namo Namo Om Namo Namo Om Namo Namo Angrenume, Jungangrenume, Zangrenume, Zerganume, Angrenume, Jungangrenume, Zangrenume, Zerganume, Angrenume, Jungangrenume, Zangrenume, Zerganume. Inhaling deeply and exhaling completely. Giving those shoulders a few rolls around. We'll open the practice with a bit of pressure release in the spine, allowing ourselves to open up through our lower backs and our centers. So thinking about sitting nice and straight, you might want to be sat cross-legged if it's preferable for you, and at any point in the practice you may want to be straddling over a cushion as well. So whichever way around is the best seated position for you today. We're going to bring the hands out in front, imagining that we're holding or clasping a nice stirring stick here. And we're going to just start making circles around in front of us like we're stirring up maybe a really thick pot of porridge that we're stirring really slowly. Quite hard work. Maybe we can only stir just these tiny circles. Or maybe we're fluidly gliding through a magical potion in a cauldron that we're stirring up, whatever it might be, whatever concoction you'd like to be stirring up for yourself, however you'd like to stir it. You might make the stirring be bigger in the arms. You could just be moving the arms around. You could just be moving the hips or the spine. You could be creating a big stir or just a small one. Whichever you've been doing, maybe changing the direction of it. Checking whatever you're doing that you've not been scrunching those shoulders up, so maybe just squeezing them up to your ears, dropping them down to feel that release through the shoulders in this. Just noticing if there's a difference for you, which way round you've been stirring. And whatever you've been doing, just beginning to wind it in to become smaller and smaller and smaller till you reach your point of stillness in the center. Then breathing in deeply, holding the breath for a moment as you draw your awareness from the base of your spine to the top of your head. And exhaling, relaxing the breath, releasing the hands down. Maybe inhaling deeply and exhaling, sweeping the arms forward in front, or up over your head. Maybe you're just spreading any of that magic you've been stirring up out and around you. Oh, this kind of movement through the arms is great for opening up through the chest, getting your heart rate going. You might find if you don't want to be raising your blood pressure, you just keep the arms down and you're just moving, releasing through the shoulders. And we're going to come into a butterfly pose here. So bringing the soles of the feet together. You can bring your heels in as close to your groin as they want to come today, or you would have them quite far out. You might find you want to have yourself sat up on a cushion to help with this. And what we're going to do is just bounce the knees gently up and down as if we're flapping little butterfly wings, preparing ourselves to maybe take off in flight. Follow that golden thread, see where it will take us. See where that steam from the potion's gone off to. Just bouncing the knees, opening through the hips. Oh. And breathing deeply. Exhaling. Allowing each breath to open up through the hips as you fully expand around your belly. Maybe bringing those legs that bit forward so you're making nice space in front of you and bending yourself forward into that curve, adapted front bend posture. Expanding through your lower back. Getting the stretch, allowing the exhales to just nudge you a little bit further into the posture. And inhaling your way up. You could keep in this posture if that works for you, and we might just flex the spine a little bit. So inhale, opening through the front of the chest. Exhale, drawing back, curving through the spine. So this is a nice adapted version of a cat-cow. You can do seated. Avoiding putting pressure onto the lower back in the way that you would if you were flexing like this on all fours in a standard cat-cow. And we'll inhale up and roll ourselves onto one side and then come round onto all fours. So we're just going to do a few postures on all fours now to continue releasing through the hips. So remembering we want knees about hip distance apart. We might want some extra blankets or cushioning under our knees. Could have hands on the palms down. You want them directly below the shoulders. You could have fists, or you could be down on your forearms. Wherever you're coming to, just beginning to rock from side to side, easing out through your hips. Maybe rocking backwards and forwards. Maybe making circles with the hips here. Maybe seeing if you could make even a figure of 8 with the hips as you move through this. Well, wherever you are, we're going to just first bring the left foot forward to the outside of the left hand. And we're in a little lunge here, so we're going to rock ourselves forward and backwards. Now, you might find that it's easier for you to have a chair or a surface that you can be leaning against here. You might find that you want to have your hand up onto your knee. You might find that you want to be standing up a bit more, just doing whatever version of that rocking lunge, coming as far forwards or as far back as feels right for you. You could do rocking from side to side even in this lunge. You could try just dropping the front knee out to the side a bit, bringing it back up. Just experimenting with whatever versions of movement within this feel helpful for you. And then we're going to step that foot back, both knees, and step the other foot forwards. Again, you might want to use a wall or a chair, surface to lean on. You might want to have your hands on the ground. You might want to focus on the extension forward or the extension back. You might be finding you're getting some compression in the upper thigh and want to be raising yourself up. You could use a wall to lean on in doing this. Just noticing as you experiment with how you move through the posture, which parts feel like they really need working, which parts you want to focus on today, and any differences you're noticing from one side to the other. And choosing the last bit in this posture, how you want to spend it. Taking a breath there, and then bringing yourself back onto all fours, sitting back onto your heels, and bringing your spine up to sitting. Now going to work releasing through both the feet and the wrists. So for the feet, what we'll do is just for a moment bring the weight onto the hands and come up on the knees, bend the toes under. Then we're pushing back, so we're pushing onto our bent toes. And then we're going to sit up, so your buttocks are on your heels and you're pushing through your bent toes. Now you're starting to probably feel quite some discomfort in the bottom sides of the feet. We're going to just breathe through that discomfort for a moment. Bring the hands together and we're going to make some nice waves with our wrists. So you're finding that your wrists are an area that probably end up getting neglected but do a huge amount of work, as do the feet. So this is a really great exercise to just give a bit of attention and release to some areas of the body that we tend to completely neglect most of the time. And we're probably finding it quite uncomfortable in our feet now, so coming forward, straightening the toes out and tapping them out so that we have a little release. And if we can manage a little bit more on all fours, you can do this again on palms or fists or forearms. What we're going to do is stick the tailbone out, the bum out to the back. You might want to have your knees spread wide. And then we're going to bring the head forward across the ground, through between your hands, and up to a flat back. So back with an exhale, inhale as we bring the nose along the ground, coming up. Exhaling as we come back, dropping the tailbone back towards the heels, inhaling as we come up. So this is like an adapted version of a sun salutation that we might be doing here. You can have those knees as wide as you want to have them to create space, create release through the hips. Just working at whatever speed feels right for you. And we'll just do one more cycle, coming back onto all fours, knees hip distance apart again. And then we're going to rock down to sit onto our heels and bring our legs round in front. We're going to make our feet into a, a kind of zigzag posture. So we've got one knee or one shin parallel to one side of the mat and the other shin parallel to the other side of the mat. And what we're going to do here is put the right hand down, or one hand down. So if you've got your right knee pointed out towards the top of your mat, your right hand is coming down next to that knee. And what we're doing here is sweeping with the left hand. So we're inhaling, sweeping with the left hand. So you might want to just be creating a sweep like this. You might want to just be rolling that left hip forward, creating an opening and a stretch here. You might want to be resting down onto the forearm, rolling the hip forward, stretching the arm out, or doing both. Or you might want to be doing a version of this where you're raising the hips up. That could be with the arm down or the arm up. You could be doing that with the hand down, pushing all the way up here. So this is what we'd call wild thing. Whatever version of that posture you want to be doing, just breathing into it. And with another breath, we're going to come down with the exhale. Inhale, bring those knees up, rock them around to the other side. And with the inhale, you can move out in the other direction. And you might find again, you want to just be not as far. You might want to just be rolling the hip. You might want to be extending the hand. You might want to be resting onto the forearm. You can just raise the hips up if you want to. And depending how you're enjoying this, again, this could be one you could do as a flow in itself, just inhaling, sweeping up, exhaling down to the center, rocking to the other side, inhaling, sweeping up, exhaling down, rocking to the other side, inhaling up. Or you could be holding the posture for a while and really breathing into it, just responding to how you want to be doing it, and finding ourselves resting back into our seated posture. And we're going to make our way slowly up to standing here. Now in standing, we're going to come into a mountain pose, feet about hip distance apart, rolling those shoulders back and down. And we're going to do a scoopy hips, funny walk, bit silly, loosening off the hips, moving around here. And so what you're doing is pushing the bum back, tucking the bum under and coming forward. So you might want to put your hands on your lower back to do this to start with. You might want to have your hands facing on the front to start with. So just feeling that scoopy movement, loosening through the hips. You could bring the hands into what we would call a yoni mudra here. So you've got making a triangle, thumbs tips touching, fingertips touching. You might want to rest that on your belly. You might want to move with that, sweeping those hands up. Yoni being our female sex organ, so this would be dancing with vagina hands if you want to see it that way. I find it helps you loosen up. Again, this could be something you could start moving with, stepping around. A nice exercise to just do on its own. You might find you just want to put a favourite song on or some particular piece of music and just dance around with those scoopy hips and those sweeping hands. You might find that that just gets you going and you end up doing a bit more freestyle dancing, just waving your arms around, whatever feels like it's what you want to be doing. Just enjoying that. Not worrying how silly you might be, unless maybe you've left your curtains open like I have and you're thinking, is someone going to walk past right now? I wonder what on earth I'm doing here. Well, I know I'm having a lovely time. My hips are getting released, so all good. So just scooping around till maybe you find yourself back to a nice standing posture. Finding yourself back into some stillness now. But if you were doing that as an exercise on its own, you could find you could even do that for 5 or 6 minutes quite happily. just following that. And we're just going to rest here in mountain pose, a form of relaxation posture. And if that's all you've got time for now, this might be where you want to stop the recording, take a little rest in mountain pose, lie down and have a longer rest or relaxation if you can. Or if you're here with a bit more time available, you might want to carry on and join us as we go into the Kriya for hormonal, mental and emotional balance, where we're just going to do a few standing postures. So we're going to start here, feet parallel. And what we're going to do is come into what we call a miracle bend. So we're bringing our hands together, bringing them up over the head, and we're leaning backwards. We're not creating, like, it's not a big bend. We're not putting pressure on the lower back. It's just a small opening through the chest. So again, maybe scrunching those shoulders up, dropping them down a bit, bringing the hands back, tilting the head just slightly. We're creating just this opening through the front of the body. You could use a wall, so you could just be standing on that wall. You could bring the arms up and just be reaching so that the hands are touching onto that wall behind you. You could just have the hands in front and here just be drawing the shoulders back towards the wall, so you're creating that opening, that slight bend through the front. Or start opening through the front of the chest. There's a slight bend in the upper spine, but keeping those buttocks against the wall, not creating any pressure on the lower back. Breathing into that opening through the chest, through the front and the top of the body, drawing those shoulder blades together. There's that very, very slight backwards bend. We're really not turning into a big stretch here. It's just about creating that opening through the front of the chest, drawing the shoulder blades towards each other, engaging that focus on the upper body, the top part of the torso. Taking a deep breath here and exhaling. If you've had the hands raised, just lowering those arms down, maybe giving the arms a good shake out and bringing ourselves back, standing parallel feet. Excuse me. Standing parallel feet here into mountain pose. Now, from this mountain pose, where you can just rest with your breath, we're going to come into a front bend. So you've got options here, depending on how you're feeling, whether inversions are appropriate for you. You might want to take a big inhale, bring those fingers up to the ceiling, and exhale, hinge from the hips and just come forward. Now, you could be using a wall for this and bring those hands just onto the wall, just whatever height feels right for you. You could be using a chair, hinging those hands down, resting onto the top of a chair. You could be using a lower surface, hinging down, hands resting there. Or you could be hanging all the way to the ground. You could be bending down to the ground, but building up the ground with a few cushions that your hands might rest on. And wherever you come to, breathing into that forward bend, breathing that belly expanding with the inhale, so you're filling up the belly, feeling that stretch, that expansion in the lower back with each breath, maybe bending the knees. So you're bending the knees one to the other, stepping through the feet. You might be swaying your hips from side to side. You might be making circles with the hips. You might be back to making those figures of 8 with the hips. Just finding whatever version of that front bend feels most useful for your body today. Breathing in and out through the nose, feeling that powerful exhale through the nose. Feeling each expansion of the inhale, filling the body all the way down, breathing into an expansion through the lower back, stretch out through the hips, through the tops of the legs, through the glutes. And wherever you are, we're coming up. So if you're hanging down in some way, maybe bending the knees, walking the hands onto your knees. If you're resting onto a surface, the wall or a chair, maybe walking your feet towards that surface. And wherever you are, as you start getting towards a vertical posture, just resting there. If you're using a supporting surface, just resting on that for a while. Then gently bringing your weight fully into your feet and gently releasing the hands from that wall, chair, however feels right for you. So you're stood nice and centered, nice and grounded. And here, resting once again in mountain pose. Throughout a Kundalini practice, the rests between the postures is powerful and as big a part of the practice as the postures themselves. And here, from mountain pose, we're coming into one of our second to last posture of the set today, which is some hip rotations. And this is in itself a posture which is the Kriya for fighting spirit. So you might do this as an activity on its own. I don't know whether we're fighting spirits or we are enabling our fighting spirit here. So whatever you might want to do in terms of powering up fighting spirits or getting your fighting spirit going, you can focus on that if you want to. So we're standing arms parallel to the floor, so forearms parallel to the floor, palms down, fingers pointing forwards, and we're going to make these big circles with the hips. If that doesn't work for you, holding the arms in any way like this, you could drop the hands down. If you want to have the hands with the fingertips pointing forward, you could have the hands hanging down, but the fingertips pointing forward, or those forearms there with that focus like that. Little kind of, I don't know what they are, sharp, what they call like light beams or rays that are kind of cutting through everything, coming out of your fingertips, lasering off the spirits or helping us fight our way through whatever. I don't know where my head's going with that, but maybe you can lean into it. So just changing the direction if you want to, a few circles in each direction. Maybe you find just going all the way one way is great for you. Maybe you're making really little circles, maybe they're fast, maybe they're slow, maybe they're really big. You don't have to be moving the hands with this, you know, you're just moving the hips and the hands are resting in this posture. Like the circling of the hips is directing those powerful laser beams that are coming out of our hands. Winding those circles back in, however big or small they've been, till you can come to some bit of stillness here in the center. If you've had the arms up, using an exhale to relax those arms down. And pausing for yourself again here in mountain pose before we come into our very final posture. This final posture is some arm rotation, so we've got some options here. We might have the arms straight out to the sides, fingertips pointing forwards. And what we're going to do is make circles, but we're thinking the hands are just coming about 6 inches up and 6 inches below of the horizon in those circles. So hands are pointed out to your sides, parallel to the floor, to the horizon. Imagine you're just raising up and down about 6 inches of that. Make circles. And what we're going to do is make a circle forward and then make a circle back. And so we make that forward circle, we're coming into a slight bend forward,
And as we make that backward circle, we're opening through the front of the chest again, making a slight bend back. So just coming forwards and back, being mindful not to strain the lower back with this. So it's really the shoulders that are moving us forwards and back. Now you might be finding those arms straight up to the sides isn't for you. You could have the thumbs resting on the back of the shoulders, fingers resting on the front of the shoulders, and be making those circles with the elbows. You might still be thinking about little laser beams pointing out from your arms and fingers and elbows, or you might not be. Or you might just have the arms down by your sides and just be rolling the shoulders forward and rolling them back. And you might be bringing a bit of a bend through the body with each forward and backward motion. You might be allowing the chin to drop forward as you come forward, the head to tilt back as you go back. If you're tilting your head back, allowing your jaw to drop open. And just choosing whichever version of the posture you'd like to finish in. Remembering that you could be doing different versions on different days, different versions as different parts of the same practice. And wherever you are, completing a circle, a rotation, inhaling into that stretched out posture. Exhaling, relaxing the arms down if they've been up. And resting again into mountain pose. And we're going to finish the practice coming back to the breath. Coming back to that golden thread we used at the beginning, if you've done this full recording. And just choosing what posture you'd like to do that in, getting really comfortable. So you might find that standing's really working for you today, and you'd like to stay here standing in mountain pose. You might find that sitting is where you want to be, or lying down. This is certainly the time to put on some extra layers if you want them. I'm going to go into a kind of goddess recline that you may or may not be familiar with, but it's a really nice one for opening through the hips. Now for this you want lots of cushions, and you want to experiment with what's a nice cushioned layout for you. So if you've got something like a sofa at the right point for you, you might want to use that. Otherwise you can do this with a pile of bolsters or a combination of your pillows. So what we're wanting to do is make sure that we're supported throughout the whole of the lower back, that we're leaning back and reclining, and if our head's tilting back, that our head's supported so we're not straining through our necks. And what you can do here is just have your feet together. They could be quite far out from the body, or they could become into the groin, and you're just allowing them to hang open. So spreading the legs into this opening goddess pose, making sure that the lower back is supported by these cushions, that the head is supported, allowing the shoulders to hang back, so you're opening through your chest, as well as opening through the hips. You might want to add the hands onto the belly. You might find that this is one of the most comfortable positions you've ever been in, if you can find the right way of supporting your body into it. You could do this without the legs being spread out, with the legs just hanging straight down. The open legs might find that it's particularly releasing for your hips, making yourself warm and cozy, resting down, maybe having your hands resting onto your belly, or open by your side, allowing your eyes to just rest closed, allowing your breath to slow and deepen as you return to that golden thread breath. The inhale through the nose, the exhale through the mouth. The mouth so slightly open that you can barely see it. Tiniest opening between the lips, like the smallest piece of fine thread could pass through. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth, allowing the breath to slow and deepen. Each exhale taking slightly longer. Imagining where that thread might be leading to. If you had an intention, a destination, where you wanted to go in this practice, following that thread now to taking you there. Trusting that by slowing the breath like this, inhale through the nose, gentle exhale through those ever so finely parted lips, allowing the golden thread to lead its way, lead your way, pull you through. Tiniest thread, the strongest power to take you where you need to go as you emerge from this practice. Just following through a couple more cycles of that golden thread, allowing the exhales to be ever slower, ever longer, ever deeper. The breath powering the thread to be ever stronger. And after what feels like it's your final cycle of that breath, just allowing yourself to release the focus of the breath, allowing the breath to find its own pattern in and out through your nose. Maybe adjusting your posture, maybe releasing the legs down if you want to. Just allowing yourself to relax, your weight to sink towards the floor. Releasing any tensions you might still be holding in your body. Releasing anything else that might be coming up in your body. And fully relaxed. Allowing your body to just absorb and integrate the effects of this practice. To be what it is to be. You in your body right now. And bringing the awareness into that. Noticing what it is physically, mentally, emotionally. What is it to be you in your body now? Breathing into whatever you may be noticing as you prepare yourself as you in your body, feeling and thinking as you are at this point in time to emerge and engage with the external world as you come out of this practice. So breathing deeply, or maybe bringing a light movement into the wrists and the ankles, maybe moving the face around to wake yourself all up a bit. So maybe rubbing the hands together or rubbing the soles of the feet together, waking up the nerve endings, warming yourself up, maybe giving yourself a little face massage. Wherever you've been, thinking about coming back out, maybe gently opening the eyes while the hands are over them so you don't have a shock of a bright light if you're in a room with a light on. Maybe rocking yourself over onto your left side, slowly bringing yourself up to sitting. Just finding yourself, whether that's kneeling or cross-legged, still lying down, whatever's the right place for you to close this practice. Bringing the palms of the hands together, thumbs pressing into the sternum, eyes closed but focused on the point between the two brows, and closing the practice with the mantra Sat Nam, truth is my identity. Breathing in, breathing out, and breathing in to close. Sat Nam. Sat Nam. Sat Nam. Light to all, truth, peace to all, truth to all, love to all, care and compassion to all. If you want to close the practice in this way, maybe bending forward for a moment. May the long-time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. And when you're ready to close the practice, inhaling to bring yourself up. Sat Nam.